Hey, gang. How's it going?
Good. Am I the gang?
No. Our listeners are the gang.
Oh, okay.
We just decided that we're going to start putting the theme music into the podcast, but that means we have to come up with a cold open. The problem is that I think that a lot of you guys um, don't watch the videos of the podcast. You just listen, which means I can't use my fun visual gags to start us off.
Well, he says that they're fun. You know,
I think they're
that
pretty
that
fun.
is all actually a matter of opinion. But go ahead. Go
He's
ahead.
he's just a big old bully. Um,
This is
so
this is
yeah,
this is testing your cold opening skills. It's
cold
pushing.
opening.
Yeah, it's pushing.
Purr. Am I right?
Oh no, no, come
Play the
on.
music.
Oh jeez.
That's right, ladies and germs. It's the Old Warlock Podcast, episode 20. How exciting is that?
It might be 20. It might be 21. Might be
I
25.
think
I don't know, but it's
I think it's 20.
we've
I'm
done a
counting
fair
20.
few of these things.
We've done a lot of these.
Yeah.
And I personally like the new virtual format. I think it's great.
No, I think it's working fine.
It
Yeah.
works wonderfully.
Yeah, it's good.
So, yeah, we got a lot of fun things we're going to be discussing
Yeah, in
today.
fact, I was thinking maybe one of the things that we ought to be doing when we start these podcasts is telling people what is actually going to be in it.
I disagree.
Give them some kind. Oh, so you want it to just be a surprise?
I think it's a surprise. I think that that is the risk you take
Yeah.
by starting this adventure.
Well,
Be-
that's probably true.
beginning this audio visual adventure.
That's
But
probably
we
true.
could do that just for funsies. Today, we're going to be talking about all kinds of different stuff. Well, I mean, not necessarily first, but one of the things is going to be the Forest of Moon, which we've mentioned
Yes.
several times. And if
Yes.
you've been paying any attention to the channel, you've probably seen or heard us mention it before. So we're going to talk a little bit about that and how it fits into Jim's world. We're also going to be talking about. Please.
We're going to be talking about my mountain of gray shame. Just a little bit because I'm really getting that mountain pared down. I'm really shaving it. It's I'm to the point now where I can see the back of my paint booth, which is really cool.
That picture you sent me the other day was pretty cool. That was impressive.
With all of the guys like standing out on
Yeah.
the grassy field. Yeah,
Little army all assembled.
yeah,
They look cool.
it's pretty cool.
Hmm.
Yeah. Oh, and the other thing we'll talk about. I played a game of Enclave with Robbie. On when was that? Last Sunday night.
Last
Not that it matters to
Sunday.
you guys,
Yeah.
but almost a week ago, I played a game of Enclave with Robbie, which was a lot of fun. And we'll be getting Robbie. We have him scheduled for an interview in 2 weeks, I believe it is.
Oh, so you got him.
I
you got in
contacted him. He
contact with
said, "Hey, that sounds great." Yeah, Robbie's a great guy. He helped us a lot with our first Kickstarter,
Uh-huh.
and he has his own game called Enclave, which is a tabletop role playing game, but it is diceless. There's no dice involved, and it's not like a D&D. It's its own thing, and he's done a really cool job with it. It's a lot of fun to play. So we'll be talking to him. Well, I mean, look for the video in, I don't know, maybe a month's time, something like that.
Yeah.
By the
So
time
that
we,
is gonna
by
be
the
a lot of
time we
fun. I'm
do
looking
the
forward to that.
recording and then get it edited and things like that. But anyway, back to
You know what? Let's start with that. How was your latest experience playing Enclave?
it was really fun. I play in Robbie's Enclave world, and the thing that you have to understand about Enclave is that it is not a continuous campaign, as in your character exists in the same place or the same type of locale all the time, and you build from there. In Enclave, you have a character which is in a lot of ways kind of like an archetype. I play a gunslinger. His name is Sloan, and Sloan has been on 3 different missions for what is termed the Enclave. The Enclave is a kind of a mysterious, powerful, overarching organization that gathers up groups of its agents and sends them on missions as required. And The character types there's a huge range in character types, which is a lot of fun. It's not like it's all a medieval setting type of character. It's not like it's a Old West type
Star
of
Wars,
setting.
sci-fi.
Exactly. Yeah. It brings in character types from all of these different genres. And then you just have a one-shot, for the most part, you have a one-shot adventure where you go in and you do whatever the Enclave organization wants you to do. But it's fun because you get to use, in the case of my character Sloan, I got to use his gunslinging abilities, which there's kind of a quasi-magic ability to a lot of what he does, quasi-magical, and I get to use those quasi-magical abilities as well as the standard abilities, and I have to apply them in a lot of different ways because the setting changes each time I play the game. So that makes it a lot of fun. You have to you have to really think outside the box in order to get the most out of your character. So yeah, that was a lot of fun. I had a really good time in this one. All right?
No, I've always thought that yeah, we're good. But no, because I haven't played it. I haven't been.
I'm going to see if I can get him to get you in on a game with us.
Yeah, I think it'd be fun. It might be difficult for me to attend regularly, but I do want to give it a go.
I mean, the thing is with me, I play once every 6 weeks. You know.
Oh yeah.
And these are drop in, drop out. I mean, you don't, like I said, the character continues, but the setting does not. If that makes sense.
Oh, okay.
So, like I say, Sloan has been in 3 different adventures in 3 totally different places doing 3 totally different things. Mm-hmm. And none of those 3 adventures tied into the next adventure or the previous adventure.
Okay. That's cool. I mean,
they're all individual.
That's a fun idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway.
No, I think that could be a lot of fun. I would like to try it because I really only have the tales and legends that you have told me about what has taken place, and I don't have any firsthand experience.
Well, I think it would be fun for you.
It's a lot of fun.
I think it would be fun for you, and I think Robbie would enjoy it. And he spins a great tale, and you know, there's never a lack of adventure and excitement in these in these games that he's playing, or these games that he's running for us. So yeah, I've played 3 times and loved it all 3 times. It's been a good time.
So yeah, keep your eyes and your ears peeled for a super fun interview with Robbie. We're excited for that. Like we've said a few times on the podcast now, we're hoping to start interviewing people from various walks of gaming life on here, so we can just kind of diversify what we're talking about. So that'll be the first of those, and I think that's going to be a lot of fun. And I'm excited to meet Robbie. He sounds like a really, really nice guy.
He is. He has really gone out of his way. He contacted us first. It's been a year and a half since he ran his Kickstarter, and we helped him out with that just by giving him kind of a shout out on the channel. Maybe a year and a half. Maybe
year and a half. Maybe 2 years.
Maybe 2 years.
Yeah.
But then when I told him that we were doing a Kickstarter, he was like, "Whoa, okay, let's talk. You know, I want to tell you all the things that." You know, all the pitfalls that I want you to avoid when you're doing this. And he had a lot of really great advice. He was the first person to support Deck of Contradiction. As soon as it launched, it's like, whoa, Robbie. And, you know, he supported it straight out of the gate. I mean, he's just a really friendly, really nice guy. Has a great family. Yeah. Lives out on the East Coast. Really a good guy. So yeah, we'll be talking to him.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a lot of fun. So the Mountain of Gray Shane.
For those of you who follow us on Instagram, and if you don't, and you want to get more insight into the Old Warlock and some of the stuff we do outside of run a podcast and a YouTube channel, go to our Instagram, because that's where we post video, short videos or pictures of stuff we're doing. And for those
weirdly, somehow I feel like there's not actually a ton of crossover between our Instagram following and our YouTube following, which I'm not sure how that's happened, but I think that very few people are following both.
I completely agree with you. I think that I'd be surprised if we've got 10 people from the few thousands that we have on the YouTube channel and the podcast. I'd be surprised if we have 10 people who follow us on Instagram.
leave a comment below if you follow both. If you're a subscriber and a follower.
Yeah, because I'll be surprised. I mean, I think I know one or two names. I think Deadly DM is one.
Yeah.
I mean, I could probably name them on one hand now that I think about it.
Yeah.
But anyway, if you're interested in the kind of things that we do, I mean, there's a video of Zachary flying a kite at the beach. You know, it's that kind of stuff, as well as cool stuff for D&D.
No, there's not. No, there isn't.
Oh,
What do you
no.
mean?
Yeah, well, just don't tell Zachary because he'll demand that it be taken off. But
Yeah.
a few months ago, I posted a couple of photographs, one being my mountain of gray shame, my mountain of 28 millimeter gray shame. And for those of you who are not into miniatures wargaming, basically this is the little 28 millimeter warriors or Warhammer figures or whatever that I work on for these other games that I play. And it suddenly struck me a couple of months ago, or however long it was, that I had a huge number of manufactured, i.e. glued together warriors. I had World War II. I had Necrons from Warhammer. I had Vikings. I had, what else did I have? I have, of course, I have Saxons and Norwegians and Danes and, all kinds of like medieval-y guys. But I also had, from a number of years ago, I had Age of Sigmar figures. I mean, the number of these guys was huge. And that was because I really like gluing them together. I'm not so hot on painting them.
Like every person who builds models ever.
I've kind of got the feeling, I've heard from a lot of people who are like, yeah, that's me, man. And one guy said, it was pretty funny, thank you. I said, I was talking about dealing with my mountain of gray shame. The reason gray shame is because these little things are all made out of gray plastic. Mm-hmm. And I actually had somebody respond to the Instagram saying, thanks for putting a name to my sickness, because he was having the exact same thing. Anyway, I was ashamed of my mountain of gray shame, my mountain of 28 millimeter gray shame. And so I've really been getting to work painting it so I can get it pared down to where it's a manageable thing. And I got to tell you, I'm making great progress. I just finished.
You really are.
I just finished my Necron army.
Wow, so they're all done.
They are all done. All I have to do is put a coat of varnish on them. So I'm ready to play John with the Necrons now.
Oh God, I'm sure he is beside himself.
Oh, he's he's got a monkey on his back. He is going after what is it? Tyrannids, I think. I think he's going after Tyrannids in
Is
Warhammer.
that another 40K?
It's another 40K thing. Every time I turn around, he's sending me a photograph saying, "Oh yeah, I painted their brains blue." It's like, "Oh my God, John, how many of these things are you making?" But my Necrons are done, and I have enough warriors, enough medieval Dark Ages warriors to create probably 3 armies. So we could get 3 people playing Saga all at the same time, and I'm kind of excited about that.
I mean, that's exciting. Do you know what, we have to ask for the people because I'm sure they're curious. Do you know the overall count of
actual warriors for Saga?
Actual warriors? Yeah,
that I
Saga.
painted?
How many do you have in total?
I counted them up the other night. I had them all out on a table because you do. That's what you do. Mm-hmm. And of course, my wife, your mother, was very, "Oh, that's nice, dear." It's like, no, do you realize what I've done? You realize how many hours I've spent painting belt buckles on these little tiny...
that for me. It sounded like my wife, parentheses, your mother.
Well,
just in
case you'd forgotten,
Yeah, of course. Of course.
You've been working hard the past week. I just have to make sure you're staying in the loop. Anyway, I would say probably the medieval Dark Agey guys, we're probably looking at maybe 100.
Not bad.
Not bad.
Not bad at all.
You throw in the Necrons, there's probably another 50 Necrons in there. Age of Sigmar, there's another 50.
Have you assembled the Age of Sigmar ones?
Yeah,
I can't
they're all put together.
They're all put together?
I'm not quite finished with the Age of Sigmar guys, but then I've got Bolt Action guys. I've got all my Band of Brothers starter set from Bolt Action, so I've got to finish
completely
those.
forgot because Zachary got those for you, right?
No, I bought the Bolt Action Band of Brothers starter set because I wanted to get into bolt action. I wanted to do the World War II thing.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's gonna be a fun game.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. But that's now on the list. They have now come to the front of the paint booth so that I can get started on those. And I've got a fair start on those anyway. But then I've got all the guys that Zachary bought me, which are Wars of the Roses. No, they're Agincourt. That's I've probably got another 30 or 40 guys there. Those are some pretty cool figures. They're from Perry Miniatures. They're actually really cool. And then, of course, I still have another 50 warriors. No, more than that. Geez, I've probably got another 80 from Victrix that I ordered. They're waiting to be put together. For those of you who are unable to see this and you're listening to the podcast, Alexander's giving me a shocked look.
It's not a judgmental shock look. It's an I didn't realize that it had gotten to that point. Shock look. But
it was still a shocked look. It was still a you've got a sickness type look.
No, I don't think it's a sickness. I think it's pretty darn cool. But
here's to wrap this up without getting too carried away with it. I have another order from Victrix coming in. For those of you who watched watched our video about the order that I made with Victrix Limited out of the UK, I got quite a few guys in that. But then Victrix,
those guys were cool.
I contacted Victrix and said, "Hey, we made this video that you might find of interest. It really pushes your company. We love what you do, that kind of thing. Just wanted them to know." And they sent me another 20% off coupon.
Yay.
And so I ended up buying. I needed more shield transfers. Okay, so I got a lot of shield transfers. But I also got shield transfers for some Roman Republic warriors. Because they're Romans, and you know how I am about the Romans.
Well, I mean, yeah.
So I had to pick those up. But then if at the end of the Victrix Limited video that we did a few weeks back, I made mention of the Mounted Knights line that they had just come out with. And I couldn't pass those up, so I've got those on the way too. They should be here by Monday or Tuesday.
Well, it's just exciting because now you're going to be able to do battle in essentially any time period.
That's kind of what I'm thinking. Well,
the year 0 until like 1945.
Well, I don't have. I will say at this point I don't have enough Romans and Gauls and people of that era to
and
really,
there's no way you're going to go down that road.
Well,
there's
it's not that, because I hate discussions of the Roman Republic and early empire. I just despise talking about that.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way I'm going to buy those. That's not going to happen.
Nah.
So get back to me and I'll tell you when
foolish.
I have. Yeah. So anyway, the Mountain of Grey Shame. So I guess I need to say this. The Mountain of Grey Shame is getting smaller, but it's getting much, much bigger at the same time.
There it is.
However, I have decided I am going to be disciplined. I am only going to put together the ones, say 5 of them, get them all painted, ready to be at the table before I move on.
Let's see how long that one lasts.
I knew you were going to say something like that. I knew that wasn't going to be. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's really exciting because I want to play that.
I know.
Game
well,
again.
The other thing, though, that what has increased my Mountain of Grey Shame is all of the terrain that I have 3D printed out of gray plastic.
I forgot. You've been printing a bunch of that, haven't you?
Yeah, and I've got the river almost done. I have probably 12 or 13 sections of river that I've almost got those finished off.
Yeah.
And then I have the 2 hills that I've got the flocking all done with those, so they're ready to go. I've got the bridges. I've got a number. I have to fire up the airbrush to do some Saxon dwellings that I can put on the table. I mean, they're more like just Dark Age things that can be set on the table. But then I
put a little village in there.
Right, but you know what we've discussed my big goal, which is to 3D
I know
print
exactly what your big goal is.
A village in the French countryside so that I can have the band of brothers fighting the Germans in house-to-house fighting in bolt action.
I mean, I keep just thinking of I think back to which one was it? Was it Genghis Khan that we went to, where it wasn't Bolt Action. It was the other game that's
No.
akin to Bolt Action.
Yeah, and that was
They had that
was that
huge
Tacticon?
table.
Where that guy?
That
Yeah,
was,
that
yeah, it
was
was Tacticon. It was Tacticon.
that was pretty cool. I wish I would have
That
stopped
was
and talked to him a
real
little bit more
cool.
than I did. That was really
Yeah.
nice.
No,
And I
because
keep
I
having-
mean they had like 20 buildings.
Oh
printed
yeah,
out
something
with
like that. With
terrain, rivers, grass, trees,
walls, the whole
armored
thing. Yep.
carriers. It was
Yeah.
cool. Yeah, that was something to see.
So that's kind of my pie in the sky. Gosh, I want to be there at some point.
Oh
But,
yeah.
yeah. It's brought new life to my 3D printer. There's all kinds of cool stuff that's come out of that. But anyway,
Well, you know the next step.
Hmm.
You got to get a better 3D printer.
yeah, I know.
And I'm sure that also hasn't been percolating in the
No,
back of your
it
mind.
really
there, Paul.
has not at all. The bamboo one that would just be dumb to buy. I haven't researched that at all. It's what a waste of money and time. The fact
Well,
that
I
it can
found
print twice as fast.
there's a
Who needs that?
I was just meandering around this little. Anyway, I was meandering around campus the other day, and they have there's a whole studio where students can go
Yes.
and 3D print stuff.
Right.
So, if hypothetically you had someone who could get in there, which I'm sure that they could,
Like yeah,
use their industrial big fancy 3D printers.
to really.
What are you
crank
working on?
some stuff.
Nothing.
Nothing. Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it.
It's a 3D reconstruction of a building for a conservation project.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just don't worry.
Something to think about.
Well, and the thing is, Gene has expressed an interest in learning Saga. I talked to them, all the guys the other day. Okay, are you guys ready to learn this? They're all like, yeah, let's do this. Gene has already made the offer of, hey, if you need to print off terrain, we can fire up my printer as well so that we can get more terrain printed
Does
off.
Gene have a 3D printer? I didn't
yeah.
realize that.
He's done some really cool stuff. Yeah, he's got
That's cool.
So anyway,
That's neat.
the Mountain of Grey Shame grows smaller but bigger, but it is more organized at this point. But I can't.
There you go.
I can't wait to get to grips with those Romans. I gotta be telling you.
Listen, you need to entertain the people here for about 1 minute because
1
I'm
minute.
going to have to go get my charging cord and the camera quality is going to decrease, but the podcast will continue.
So well, okay. So go take your time. Son.
Talk to the people.
Yeah. What is some of you have been asking what the game is about, more about the game that I want to play with these tabletop miniatures. And the one that I'm pursuing at the moment is called Saga, and we'll be doing a review of the game of Saga and talking about how you play it, kind of an overview, not a real detailed look, but an overview of how the game is played. And I think that you might find it really interesting. If you're interested in history, you want to do the tabletop wargaming thing, if you like to paint miniatures, Saga just might be a game for you. It's a really simple system, but it is a lot of fun. The other one that we've been looking at is Lion Rampant, which is slightly different. It has some different game mechanics, but it's also an excellent game. So between those two, we'll be, as we've mentioned a couple of times previous, we'll be doing some videos on those things here in the not too distant future, now that I have a massive army on a table that we can use to illustrate different points. But yeah, a lot of fun. And if you don't paint miniatures, I think you have two options. You either need to take it up and start painting miniatures, or you need to stay away from it completely, because it may become a monkey on your back that you can never actually get rid of. Because I think I will be doing this on my deathbed, trying to bring little tiny 28 millimeter tall guys to life by giving them facial features and armor and weapons and stuff like that. I mean, what's not to like? Aside from that, one of the things that we had talked about, and Alexander, he's just completely disappeared. One of the things that we wanted to talk about in this particular, there he is, he's back. One of the things that we wanted to talk about in this podcast is the Forest of Moon. We have an upcoming Kickstarter for the Forest of Moon. We're not going to go into the details of that Kickstarter. What we really want to do, we've had a number of people, actually quite a few people, want to know more about my campaign. And I think, I don't think that it's because they think that I am, Mr. Awesome Campaign Guy. I think it's just people wanting to know ideas. They're trying to get some understanding of how I came to the game and how we play the game. And Forest of Moon, the Forest of Moon in my campaign is a pretty cool place. And I think that might satisfy the interests of some of the people who are wanting to get some more detail and insight into my decades-old campaign. So,
Absolutely.
So I think that I'm going to give you what I thought I would do. Put it this way. I thought I would give you a brief overview of the main continent where most adventures in my campaign take place. Try and give the Forest of Moon a little bit of context, and then explain exactly what the Forest of Moon is and the role it plays, no pun intended, in my ongoing campaign.
I'm excited for this because you very rarely talk about the details of your continent or your world with the people who are playing within it. So,
and there's a reason for that. I mean, I do that just... You would think that it would be something I would want to talk about all the time since I put so much work into it. But there's a certain excitement in discovery. And to me, that's a very important part of... I'm going to adjust this camera just slightly because I'm hunched down a bit. There's a certain element of enjoyment of discovery, and I don't want to ruin that for you guys.
Yeah. It makes it more like, I want to find out what's over that hill.
Exactly. It's what's over that hill. But at the same time, you and I have been working on getting Forest of Moon into the Kickstarter. And so you're already starting to pick up an awful lot about the history of the Forest of Moon anyway. So that joy of discovery thing is not going to be quite so impactful as it would be on, say, Bill or Calvin or Gene or some of the other people who've been playing with me for the past decades.
But I mean, that's fine because it's I mean, I think you're going to talk about all this, but from what I'm aware, it's more removed from a lot of the places we spend time.
It is. It's a long way away from where you guys normally adventure.
And I have never had anybody make it anywhere near. I mean, a little bit close at one point.
Yeah, I mean, you passed within a few hundred miles of it.
Yeah.
But you didn't even know that it was there.
So it was on the other side of a big thing.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So,
but please take it away.
No, okay. So the Forest of Moon in Jim's campaign, I'm going to give I'm hoping that I can articulate kind of the general layout of this continent, because it plays a role in why the Forest of Moon is what it is, and why the rest of the campaign on that continent developed as it did. Now, on the main continent it was the first continent I drew back in 1978 to accommodate players and campaign things and modules and whatever it was I put together, it took place on this continent. So there is a really large mountain range that runs north to south on this main continent. But it lies probably within a 10% range of the westernmost edge of that continent. Okay. So this enormous mountain range, very high, there are only a few passes through it. Everything to the west of that, there's about 150, 200 mile stretch from that range of mountains west to the ocean. And along that strip of land, that 150, 200 miles wide strip of land, there's an area called the Four Kingdoms. And that's really where most of the adventuring has taken place in my campaign over the past however many decades. Now, the Four Kingdoms, that's the most civilized, for lack of a better term, area on that continent. The kingdoms themselves have a pretty old... They have a pretty good age to them, but they're nothing compared to the civilizations and the cultures that exist to the east of this big mountain range. They're the newcomers on the block. The Four Kingdoms are the newcomers on the block. Now, to the east of the mountain range is an enormous forest that you could probably fit 5 sets of the Four Kingdoms in this forest. It's called the Forest of Jonan. Now, the Forest of Jonan is old in and of itself, but it houses a lot of elvish cultures. And humans have never really gained a foothold in there. It's not that they aren't welcome. It's just that it's been elvish land for time immemorial. Where humans really kind of the grounds for the arrival of humans, for the genesis of human more advanced culture, that took place to the northeast of the Forest of Jonan, in a place called the Forest of Moon. Now, the Forest of Moon, the reason it's called the Forest of Moon is because very, very early on, when humans were just moving past that hunter-gatherer stage and kind of moving into what, our European listeners would be thinking about as the Neolithic, when they were first starting to settle down and do a little bit of farming, when they were first starting to I guess, become more than just a band of people moving and following game. When those little groups of humans started to finally settle down, the first thing that they did was they took to worshiping the moon. Now, when they started worshiping the moon, all of that means that all of their shrines were dedicated to the moon. So, you kind of think, Stonehenge type stuff. Or I'm not saying that Stonehenge exists in my campaign. It doesn't. But that gives you some idea of the kinds of things that were being created in the Forest of Moon in those very, very, very early years of... You're laughing. I see you over there laughing at me.
I know what you're talking about.
You know what I'm talking about. In those very, very early years, all of the religious aspects of the people's lives, of the humans' lives, in the Forest of Moon were based on lunar activity. Well, time went on, and as cultures started to rise and fall, as cultures became more sophisticated, as magic was brought in and taught to the humans by the elves, and the humans started to investigate their own magical abilities, everything kept going along that line of lunar interaction. So through time, all of the rituals, all of the spells that were being explored, basically every aspect of every culture that came after those very early Neolithic-y type people, everything, because of cultural inertia, everything that they did was based on observation of the moon. And so after several thousands of years, and these people stayed in this Forest of Moon, and it's actually quite a large place. It's nowhere near as big as the Forest of Jonan, but it is a substantial land area. As time went on, the people continued to practice these lunar-based rites. Pretty soon, a lot of the power from that started to be absorbed by the grounds and the landscape and the rocks and the rivers of the Forest of Moon itself. So it's to a point now where the Forest of Moon, everything that happens in the Forest of Moon is tied into lunar activity somehow. Things will increase in strength as the moon comes closer to full, and things will wane in strength as the moon disappears after the full moon. So the Forest of Moon is it's a unique place in my campaign because of the sheer amount of energy that has been invested into the land by thousands of years of repeated rituals and repeated magic use, based on lunar activity. There have been a number of people who have, over the centuries, who have gone in to examine the Forest of Moon. So it's become a real place of interest with wizards. It's become a place of interest with certain religious people, with certain religious groups. So there've been a lot of clerics who have gone there to try to investigate what powers exactly have been harnessed by the people and beings of the Forest of Moon, in the hope that maybe they can take some of that power and make use of it themselves. Now, there have been numerous civilizations that have risen and fallen in the Forest of Moon. And there have been holy wars there. There have been, if you can find essentially a greedy bad thing that humans have done, it's happened in the Forest of Moon at some point in some way. And it has reached a point now where the Forest of Moon is almost a place that people are afraid to go, because a lot of the creatures that are the remnants of those civilizations as rose and fell, a lot of those creatures are really dangerous. And they're especially dangerous as the full moon approaches. And unless you know what to expect from this wide variety of creatures, unless you know what to expect, your chances are if you go into the Forest of Moon, you're not coming back out. But a lot of people do go to the Forest of Moon because if you go back and look at all these civilizations that have risen and fallen, the pickings in tombs and the pickings in dungeons and the pickings in deserted cities are off the charts. And that's kind of that's the setting of the Forest of Moon. I mean, I love the place. I love designing for it. I love coming up with creatures for it. I love the storyline behind it, and all of the stories that I value as someone interested in history and someone who loves, the Lord of the Rings and a lot of the, archetypes of medieval fantasy literature, things like that. All of those things that I love, there's a place in the Forest of Moon to take what I really like and drop it in to a fun, unique setting. So that's why we decided to make our next Kickstarter be Expedition to the Forest of Moon. And if you're looking for it to be like a module or an all-encompassing, almost like gazetteer of the Forest of Moon, it's not going to be that. But what we wanted to start off with is the creatures that have been created for the Forest of Moon. There's some really cool ones.
Yeah.
And the fact that they are, that the lunar cycles influence them so much is another cool thing. And so we decided that maybe what we should do, my youngest son Zachary is an excellent artist, and he started coming up with some design concepts, some art concepts for these creatures that we were talking about. And some of them are off the charts, if I do say so myself.
They are really cool.
There's some really cool ones. Be looking. We'll try and we'll have some of those on Instagram. We will show you some of these things here in the not too distant future. Go ahead.
Sorry, if you look on our Instagram, the thing that we posted, not most recently now, but about a little ways back about the Forest of Moon. If you look on that,
yes,
there are some examples of the art and all of that, like what that looks like, that vibe. That's the art style for the whole thing.
Yep.
And some of it is really, really cool.
Yeah, there's some really good pieces there. And we're also going to probably get a number of posters made. We're going to design the posters. And if you guys are interested in, if you see the artwork, we'll make them available probably on our website, which is now oldwarlockgames.com. If you go to oldwarlockgames.com here, probably by the time this video is released, you'll be able to see some of the artwork there. And I'll try and make it so that you can download some of these poster images. You can print them off on your color laser printer or whatever else, and do whatever you want with them. But we just really like the artwork, and I want to share it as wide as we possibly can. But it'll give you an idea of what we're doing with the Forest of Moon, the Expedition to the Forest of Moon. Now, the background behind Expedition to the Forest of Moon is, for those of you who bought the Deck of Contradiction, we introduced a staple in my world, in my campaign, called the Wandering Elephant Expedition Company. The Wandering Elephant Expedition Company has existed in my campaign for a long time, and I actually brought a lot of it over from my friend Brian's campaign, where I was in the Wandering, I was involved with the Wandering Elephants in this other campaign, but I brought it over to my campaign after my friend died. And the Wandering Elephant Expedition Company was introduced in the Deck of Contradiction. What they are is they're an expert retrieval and exploration company. And so if people want things done, if they want dungeons explored, if they want tombs looted, they hire the Wandering Elephant Expedition Company to go and do it for them. That's how so when we introduced the Wandering Elephant Expedition Company in the Deck of Contradiction Kickstarter, they were exploring a dungeon when things went bad, and then they ended up at a place called Alebuck's Arcane Emporium. That's where they purchased the Deck of Contradiction. We have brought the Wandering Elephant Expedition Company into Expedition to the Forest of Moon, and the expedition is being conducted by the Wandering Elephant Expedition Company. They've been hired to go to the Forest of Moon to retrieve a powerful artifact for someone. That's what's tying all of the expedition information together. So the deck itself will have monsters, 20 of the creatures. Creatures is a better term. 20 of the creatures that inhabit the Forest of Moon.
Creatures.
Mm-hmm.
They're not all like individual, like the Bigfoot kind of things.
Right.
There's more. Yeah.
There are some individual
species,
people.
Some of them are. Yeah.
But at the same time, we will also have a dungeon called the Tomb of the Raven, which exists in the campaign. We will have the Tomb of the Raven. We haven't fleshed it out so that every nook and cranny is detailed, but we will have the maps so that you can use those in your own campaign. They're also done. They'll be done 2D and as isometric drawings, and Zachary's working on those. So that's what's going to be in Expedition to the Forest of Moon Kickstarter. But the Forest of Moon does exist in my campaign. It is a really fun place. If you guys have questions about it, feel free to let me know, because that's the kind of thing I'd love to talk about.
Yeah. Yeah, we really are exceptionally excited about this whole thing. Just a couple of notes, a couple of thoughts that I came up with as you were speaking there. First and foremost, I don't know if you guys can tell, but he got his bachelor's degree in anthropology. So he's a big fan of that theme, and it works its way into the D&D campaign.
Pretty much everything I do.
It permeates pretty much everything. Secondly, Stonehenge alongside the pyramids. I think it's good to just toss out there that they were not built by aliens, and they were built by people. Love to toss that out.
You love to toss that out there every time you can, yeah. Hey, did you hear... Well, sorry, I have to interrupt real quick.
I know what you're going to say. Yeah, go ahead.
About the altar stone at Stonehenge being found to have come down all the way from northeastern Scotland. That's pretty cool. That's a pretty neat thing. Anyway, go ahead.
That was really neat. No, I saw that. That was exciting.
John sent me a text.
Doesn't fall too far from the tree, but even so.
John sent me a text right after that information came out, and he said, "What's the big deal?" He said, John's always referring to, he loves to play dwarves, and he sent me a text message saying, this is just not a big deal because, dwarves could have moved that thing from northeast Scotland in probably less than 2 days. It's like, John, okay, John.
All right, John.
Yeah,
blocked.
Exactly.
But no, I mean, the whole thing, it really is going to be cool. And I think it's kind of we think you guys will like it because the way that we've structured everything, like you said, it is decently fleshed out. Like the dungeon is decently fleshed out. There's a story. There are different time periods of different things that took place there. But if you don't want to use all of that, you don't have to. And it's not detailed to the point where if you have a certain flavor that you want to incorporate into it, you are unable to do that. We absolutely encourage that. And that's kind of why we designed it the way that we did. Yeah. So you can pick this up, drop it in wherever you want, and you can have the influences of where it has been placed have a role on what's going on there.
Right.
And yeah, we've talked about, if you guys are interested, maybe down the road we could flesh it out further into a bigger thing. But I mean, that's for something down the road, and I think that's largely going to depend on the feedback we get.
Yeah, and I mean, this has turned into a little bit of a promo for the Expedition to the Forest of Moon Kickstarter, which is not what I meant to do.
Yeah,
but the thing about the Forest of Moon is also that, and Alexander mentioned that I have a background in anthropology and archaeology. I was an archaeologist for about a decade or so, and then I moved. No, it's just you just stop. Then I moved into just straight up history after that, which is losers.
That's
You might know that Alexander is a historian, but. The thing about the Forest of Moon, what I really wanted to do, and this has nothing to do with Expedition to the Forest of Moon, this is just my development of that element of my campaign. What I really wanted to do was have an area that had layer upon layer upon layer of different civilizations that were all linked together in some way culturally. When another civilization would rise up, it would take all the trappings of the previous civilization, modify them slightly, and then they would run with them for a while until they ran out of steam, and then they would collapse and another group would come and do the same kind of thing. So there are layers and layers and layers of different civilizations all operating under the same, I guess, spiritual umbrella in the Forest of Moon. And that's been a lot of fun to develop, to put that together.
And I think that
And it
kind of
continues to
circling
this
back
day.
to just telling people about your campaign. This is one of the things that I think is really cool and a little bit unique about yours in particular, is that concept permeates everything within the campaign. Like
Sure.
no matter where you go, if you basically if you dig down far enough underground, you will find remnants of something that came before it, but those things that came before where you are now influence what's going on now. And if you can find that evidence previously, you as your character have the opportunity to use that to help you accomplish something.
Right.
So adding that historical aspect into it is something that we as the players in that campaign always just have to keep in mind when we're making our decisions, that there might be something we can learn from the past that'll help us in the present. And it's cool to have that as an option, as something we can do.
Yeah, and I think that that's been. I'm not saying that that was the way that it was from the very beginning, but pretty darn early on, that was what I wanted to do. I wanted to
Yeah.
have, what had gone before continue to influence today, and that was one of the big things for people to be able to. That was one of the major tools for players to be able to latch on to be able to come to logical and correct decisions about actions. And I
Yeah.
think in some ways, the Forest of Moon, it kind of crystallizes that concept. In other places, it's a little more disparate. You in the Four Kingdoms area, you have previous civilizations, but there's nothing that ties them together as strongly as the series of rituals the evolution of the rituals, the moon rituals that have tied together the cultures over the centuries, over the thousands of years, the eons of the Forest of Moon, of what's happened in the Forest of Moon.
Yeah. And I mean, I think we did. I turned it into a little bit of a promo, but that was not the intention of this. And to be honest with you guys, we're probably not gonna talk too much about the Forest of Moon, at least for a little while
No,
here.
no.
We'll mention it here and there. We have the landing page for it is up, so if you want to go check out what it's going to look like, some of the things that you can get, some of the original, like some of
Artwork
the
and
information
yeah.
about it, yeah, you can go check that out. We'll include the link in the description down below. But the actual campaign, the money raising portion of it, we're probably not going to start that.
That's not going to be for a while.
Yeah, for another few months at the very least.
And if you enjoy the kind of stuff that we do, if you could go to the campaign landing page on Kickstarter, and you could just either establish an account or use your account to follow the campaign, that would be an enormous help for us. So
Yeah.
just keep that in mind. But yeah, Forest of Moon, it's one of the fun places. It's just, for your information, Alexandria, it lies, because even though we've been talking about it a lot, I don't know if you're totally secure where it is in terms of geography.
See, he doesn't. I have seen the map of his entire world like twice over the course of my life, and both times were when I was like 13, so I don't remember what it looks like. He's very careful about this. So let me try and describe to you where I think it is, and you can tell me if I'm
Yeah,
right.
go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, so this will be backwards to when you're looking at it, but you have the Four Kingdoms,
Mm-hmm.
you have the mountain range,
Right.
you have the Forest of Jonon, you have the desert up on top of that. I think it's up here.
You're essentially right. Although
Okay.
the forest, or the desert, the Great Desert, which you have been to. You have been to the
Yeah.
Great Desert on one occasion, but it was a weird way that you got there. And
Yeah.
you've passed close by it. That's where you first met Larkana and Yazkarl, was when you were near the Great Desert.
That was when we were hiking across the
Yes.
continent to try and get back after we had teleported over there.
Right. The Great Desert lies actually, if you look at it, to the northeast of the Forest of Moon.
You mean of the Forest of Jonon?
I'm sorry, of the Forest of Jonon. The Forest of Moon lies east-northeast of... No, let me start again. The Great Desert lies to the east-northeast of the Forest of Moon. Forest of Jonon lies just to the south. More to the south and west. So the
Okay.
Forest of Moon is kind of sandwiched between the stepplands of Bandoa, which are to the north.
Never been there.
No, you've never been there.
Never been even close.
I need to tell stories about that on the podcast. John went there, and pulled off one of the coolest
Was that
things that's ever been accomplished in my campaign.
during the Artec
Yes.
founding, or was that a different?
No, that's when John
Okay.
went to the Steplands in order to recruit the people there to help him in an
You've
enormous
told me
battle.
about that. Yeah.
That was stellar play, and this was back when we were in high school. It was amazing. But anyway, Steplands of Bandua. Just to the east of that is the Great Desert. The Great Desert kind of runs from a northeast southwest axis, and then the Forest of Moon lies just in between those. It's kind of sandwiched in between those a little bit, and the Forest of Jonon lies just south of that. But anyway, gives you that.
Yeah.
Hopefully that gives you. We're at 50 minutes, so we're probably going to have to wrap this up. But hopefully that gives you guys a little bit of insight into how and what the driving forces are behind the development of my campaign or sections of my campaign. And if you have questions about the Forest of Moon, if there's something you'd like me to talk about or show you of the Forest of Moon, let me know and we'll see what we can do. But it's one of my favorite places in my campaign. It's been something that I've put a lot of effort into over the years.
So yeah, check out the links that are down below. I won't spend too much time going through all of them. Take a look at the Patreon, take a look at the Kickstarter. Please go check out the landing page. If this has intrigued you at all, take a look at that. Follow us on Instagram.
Follow us on Instagram. You'll get weird stuff.
We never say that either. Yeah.
We've never pushed it.
No. But yeah. Thanks for listening, gang.
Yeah, I mean, I know that it kind of turned into a Forest of Moon commercial, but it wasn't meant to be. But we have had, like I said, we have had a lot of people saying, "Hey, I just want to hear more about your campaign world." I think there's some vicarious living going through through people being able to hear this stuff and gather glean some ideas for their own campaigns, or just set their imaginations up for creating their own things because you're hearing something that somebody else has done. So yeah. Aside from that, and my Mountain of Grey Shame and playing Enclave with Robbie, my life hasn't had much going on lately.
Nah.
Okay.
Me neither. I'm a slave to the man.
Yes, you most certainly are. Welcome to that world. It's just not a lot.
Love it.
It's not a lot.
Such fun. That's a great time. Yeah.
All right, guys. That's all that I have. Thanks again, as always, to our Patreon supporters. I'm going to be sending them. I think I'm going to send them copies of the posters so that they can have them. Just because.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you're interested in the Patreon, go look at the link. Aside from that, I am Jim.
I am Alex.
Keep your sword on free.
Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye, guys.